What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the brother Larry Wright for the $25 donation via the Cash App. Much respect to you for showing love once again at Too Raw for TV. So, recently Corey Holcomb talked about how one time Eddie Griffin told him about the sadistic quid pro quo norm that goes on in the Hollyweird industry. Talk about how there was a period of time when Eddie Griffin's star was rising, and a certain Hollywood executive told him that he could climb even higher if he would let him climb on Eddie's backside. Yeah, this is what he had to say right here.
Hollywood go. I've been saying it for years. Y'all ain't never got to listen to me, but I'm saying if you really want some real action out here, I was talking to Eddie Griffin. It felt good to hear it because I know he wasn't lying. Eddie Griffin, right when he was getting hot, getting movies, a powerful Hollywood executive, I ain't gonna say his name. Eddie Griffin said he called him in the room and he said, "How big a star you want to be?" And he opened his legs and had his thing out. Eddie Griffin said, "That's when I knew it was time for me to leave Hollywood."
Wow. And that was for a movie?
That was the man. Asked him, how big a star you want to be? Let me tell you something, man. It's some people out here who can turn you into the face of black people. Do that shock you?
See, back then,
Yeah, that shocked me when you hear Will Smith and them getting $20 million a film and like that. Like,
but not their first ones. Not their first. See, that's what I'm saying.
Will Smith, there, man, they look like their baby birds when it's getting fed.
Oh God.
See that? This is the thing that gets me about this, man. Like, I mean, it's obvious now that this is what goes on in that industry, and to a certain extent, this goes on in the real world. You know what I'm saying? Especially any industry where you have people who are desperate or people who are looking for a come up, trying to make a name for themselves, trying to get successful. And when those who are the gatekeepers, usually male, but let's be honest, you have females that engage in this too, who are using their power to exploit others. We see this in all industries. You know what I'm saying? I've worked in industries where usually the dynamic is you have women who, but you know, sometimes it's not a victim situation, not a predator victim situation. Sometimes it's a partnership. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it is quid pro quo, a mutual quid pro quo. You know what I'm saying? But you know, that's another video for another day. But in this situation, kudos to Corey Holcomb and kudos to Eddie Griffin for pointing this stuff out. That you have these people who are in this industry who are predators, right? That's good. That's good that it's being pointed out. But what good does it do if you are pointing out those who are benefiting from it, usually black, right? But you don't point out the gatekeepers. Because in essence, what we're really doing is we're shaming the victims, aren't we? I mean, because isn't this essentially what Diddy's been accused of? Diddy's being accused of using his power to exploit and humiliate others who generally, I mean, I'm not talking about like the people who are the quote unquote workers, the SEX workers who he's exploiting, as they put it, for his personal gratification. I mean, isn't that what sex is? Using people for sexual personal gratification? Isn't that what casual sex is? But whatever the case may be, whatever. These are all lawyer-loaded terms anyway. But I'm talking about the Cassies. I'm talking about the people who he allegedly used and abused, who were looking for some sort of come up in that world, right? We vilified Diddy, and we quote unquote share the pain of the victims, but it seems like it's only when it's females, because in this scenario you have these executives who are always anonymous. They're never talked about as far as who they really are. It's always, at the most, you'll hear names. Yeah, man, Clive Davis, I heard about him. What about him? I don't know, man. I just heard, some stuff with him. But you want to hear all about, I'll tell you about Quincy Jones now. Now, Quincy Jones, man, this happened and that happened in 1975, and on April the 8th, 1984. We go on detail about each other, but where everybody else is vague, and we're lucky if we get a name. But like I said, aren't these people, aren't they victims? Yeah, they're being well compensated, but aren't they still victims? And another thing that we talked about is, we always talk about how Harvey Weinstein exploited women, but what about the men? I would argue it's worse with men, because usually these young men who are exploited by these animals, we make jokes about them. And then down the line, these young men like Orlando, what's his name? Orlando Jones? I forget some of these people's names, but Orlando Brown and Rashid Gray, all these kids, all these young people now, they're not kids no more, but most of these people were kids and young people, and they've been exploited. And most of the time when I see people talk about them, it's jokes. You're making fun of them. You know what I'm saying? But I want to know who these people are. I want to know who these people are. Who are the powers to be who are doing this? To be honest with you, and this is something somebody told me, and I think this makes sense, right? Somebody told this to me. And I think this is true. You could argue that what's going on right now is that there's been so much pressure to quote unquote clean up Hollyweird that people like Diddy, and I suspect some others, are going to fall, and they're probably going to almost all be black. They're going to throw in a few token whites, I think. Just a few. But for the most part, these are sacrifices. I think what they're doing now is they're sacrificing the low-hanging fruit. Because Diddy, as bad as he is, you got to think about it. This was normal. What he's doing is normal. And there are worse people than Diddy in the industry. You can even make an argument that what really happened with Diddy is that he got discovered by two different things. The feds focused on him for a couple of reasons. This is what I'm starting to think now. You guys can have your own opinion. I think part of it is Diddy's stupidity in not settling that matter with Cassie earlier, when that rep came to him with the fact that we're going to we're going to put out this autobiography. It's really damaging information to the point where it could be criminal. And you could shut this down now by paying her $30 million, told her to kick rocks. And then later on, here come the allegations. And then another thing people need to look at is his connection to Eric Adams. Eric Adams is in trouble right now for all these different charges, bribery, and all these different other violations. And to me personally, a lot of that stuff is just retribution for going against the Democratic Party. That's what that is. This is payback for not going along with the plan when it comes to, Project Overrun Dummy cities. You know what I mean by that, right? Not going along with the plan, flooding the gates, with people who, aren't really citizens. He finally spoke out about that, and then magically, here come the allegations. Here come all these charges. But I think Eric Adams' connection, or Diddy's connection with Eric Adams, might have something to do with that too. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off subject. At the end of the day, who are these other people, man? That's what I want to know. Who are these real, true gatekeepers? I'm tired of just seeing brothers. I'm tired of seeing just brothers, man. Like, and people, why are you making it about race? Because they're making it about race. That's why. And this is why a lot of us don't have that energy for others, because this is how we're taught. Oh, we can go in on brothers all day, but when you go in on one of these others, people get scared. So you can make an argument in conclusion that people like Jaguar Wright, you can make an argument that a lot of these people are whistleblowers by design to take out the low-hanging fruit, but they're not going to call out the main people. They're not going to call out the real power movers and shakers in Hollyweird. They're not going to call them out because they know what'll happen. The same thing that happened to Epstein. The same thing that happened to the D.C. madam who went on Howard Stern and said a few weeks before she was found unalived, I have no plans on unaliving myself. Oh, and this tell-all book is coming out. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.